Chosen one. Heaven made a record about you this morning. Not about your future, not about what you are still becoming, about what you have already done, in the places where no one was measuring, in the moments where faithfulness was a private decision made at a private cost that only eternity fully knows. There is a word that keeps returning when I receive what the Father is saying about you in this hour. It is not the word you have been trained to expect from God. It is not correction. It is not the quiet, cautious approval of someone satisfied with tolerable progress. It is something older than approval, something more personal than satisfaction. The word is pride. Shockingly, specifically, unmistakably proud. Not because you have arrived, but because of what it cost you to do what you did, and because you did it anyway. What you paid, heaven counted. What the world overlooked, heaven recorded. And that record does not disappear with the day. It accumulates, it builds. And in the courts of eternity, when the weight of invisible faithfulness reaches a point that requires a response, heaven responds. This morning was that response. A child should know when their father is proud. There is a road we are going to walk together in this time, to rush it, because each part of it matters, and each part leads somewhere that the part before it made possible. I am going to take you into a word, an ancient Hebrew word, that will completely change the way you understand what it means when heaven says, "It is watching." I am going to sit with you in the story of a shepherd boy who spent years in a field with no audience, and show you why that field is the same field you have been standing in. I am going to name the internal obstacle, the slow and quiet voice that has been trying to reduce everything you are about to receive, and I am going to walk you through the moment where all of that changes. This is not a short journey, it is a complete one, and the one who arrives at the end of it will not be the same as the one who began it. Stay with me. There is a moment in the life of a chosen one that looks completely ordinary from the outside. No one films it. No record is made of it in any place that human systems can find. There is no ceremony, no audience, no one watching who could later say, "I was there, I saw it, I can confirm that it happened." It arrives without announcement, in the ordinary architecture of a Tuesday morning or a Friday afternoon, or the last hour of a night that had already taken a great deal from you. You were somewhere when it happened. Maybe you were in that specific time just before the day fully opens. The window before the phone comes alive, and the responsibilities begin their procession toward you, and everything that needs your attention starts competing for it. A quiet place, a private one. Maybe you were in the opposite of that, in the last few minutes of a day that had asked everything of you, a day that left very little untouched, and the house had finally gone still, and it was just you in that stillness with the weight of what you were carrying and the question of whether carrying it was worth it. Or maybe you were in the middle of something else entirely, a conversation that turned in a direction you did not expect, a decision that arrived before you felt ready for it. A moment where two roads appeared, and one of them was easier, and it was completely understandable, and most people in your position would have taken it. You did not take it. You chose the harder thing, the truer thing, the thing that cost you something and gave you very little back in any currency that the world values. And then life moved forward as if nothing significant had just occurred. The moment closed, the day continued, and the invisible thing you had just done went unmarked by everyone except one. That unmarked moment is what I want to spend this time on, because you did not imagine it. It happened, and the one who saw it has been waiting for the right moment to tell you what was written about it. You have done something recently. It may have been in the last few days. It may have been in the last several months. It may have been something that happened so quietly, so without drama, that the significance of it only lived in the space between you and God, and nowhere else. And when you hear what I am about to describe, Something in you is going to recognize it. Not because I have been given specific information about your particular circumstances, but because heaven records a particular kind of act, a particular kind of faithfulness, and when I describe the shape of it, the one who has been living inside that shape tends to know immediately that I am describing them. I am describing you, and you deserve to know that. Let me start with what I know about where you have been, because before we go anywhere forward, I want to make sure you feel seen where you are standing right now. You have been doing the right thing for a long time, without the acknowledgement that should have come with it. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that you have been publicizing or using as the center of your story. Part of what is so specific about your situation is that you have not been making noise about it. You have been carrying it quietly, with a kind of steadiness that does not feel like strength from the inside, because strength that is required by necessity rather than chosen by option does not often announce itself as impressive. You have been faithful in ways that resist human measurement. You have chosen forgiveness when resentment would have been completely understandable, when most people who knew your situation would have said that holding on to it was reasonable and justified. You have held things together in silence when coming apart would have made sense. When the circumstances were genuinely hard enough that no one would have blamed you for stepping back or speaking up or letting something go that you had been holding for far too long. You have been the one who stays when others leave, the one who gives when the giving has not been matched, the one who continues to show up for something or someone that has not always shown up for you in return, the one who carries what is not really yours to carry and carries it without making it a performance, without needing the weight to be acknowledged before you are willing to lift it. And the people around you, the ones who have benefited from your faithfulness the most, they have not always had eyes to see it. I am not saying they are all careless. Some of them are in the middle of their own survival and genuinely do not have the sight for yours right now. Some of them have simply not been given the capacity to perceive what is happening in the places you inhabit. But the result, regardless of the reason, is the same. You have been offering something extraordinary in the quiet places of your life, and the receipt has not come back in the way it should have. The acknowledgement that should have arrived, the word that should have said, what you are doing is real, and it matters, and it is being seen. That word has been taking longer than you expected, and that absence of witness has done something to you. Not a sudden or violent thing, a gradual one, a quiet, slow erosion. It sounds like this. Did God even see that? Did what I just chose even register? I have been faithful in this season for a long time, and I cannot see any movement. Maybe the invisible acts do not actually carry the weight I thought they did. Maybe the record I believed was being kept is not as thorough as I hoped. Maybe what I do when no one is watching does not travel as far as the words I have believed would carry it. That is not a crisis of faith. That is not evidence that something is wrong with you. That is what happens to a human being who has been giving from a depth that requires constant invisible fuel, and the fuel of divine acknowledgement, the clear sense that what you are doing has been seen and has landed and has moved something, has felt distant for a while. I am here to tell you today that it has not been distant. It has been active. This morning, it produced a response. And I want to show you exactly what I mean by that. Because these next few moments are where this goes from something you feel into something you understand. And I want you to understand it, not just feel it, because a truth you can understand stays with you in a different way than a truth you only felt once. There are 5 shapes that this kind of faithfulness takes. 5 specific patterns that show up in the lives of people who carry this particular calling. And when I name them, I want you to pay attention to which one, or which ones, pull at something in you. The first is this. You forgave someone before they asked for it. I do not mean you said the words to keep the peace. I do not mean you performed forgiveness in front of other people because it was expected of you. I mean you actually, in the private place where the decision gets made, released something that was legitimately yours to hold. You let go of a grievance before the other person acknowledged it, before they apologized, before they showed any awareness of what had been done, before there was any guarantee that releasing it would change anything at all. You made that decision, not because it felt good, not because it was easy, not because the wound was small enough to dismiss, because something deeper than the wound, something in the part of you that is more durable than your pain, knew that holding it longer was not who you are, knew that the person you are called to be does not live in that particular form of holding, and so you let go. They did not see when you let go of the very thing you had every right to keep. No one was in the room for that moment. No one witnessed it. The person you forgave may not even know it happened. The people in your life who knew the situation, they saw the aftermath, maybe. They noticed that you were not bitter anymore, or that you had stopped bringing it up, or that something in how you moved through the world seemed lighter, but they did not see the moment itself. The private, unremarkable moment where you made the decision that no one required of you, that no one would ever verify, that no award is given for. Heaven was in that room. Heaven saw the exact moment the decision was made. Heaven recorded it. The second is this. You kept quiet when speaking would have been your right. There was a moment, and for some of you there have been several, where the information was in your hands. You knew something that, if released, would have changed how you were being perceived. It would have cleared a misunderstanding that had been allowed to persist too long. It would have restored something to your name that had been quietly removed by the absence of full information. It would have shown people who had drawn incomplete conclusions that the picture they were looking at was missing significant pieces. You had the words, you had the evidence. The moment was available to you. You did not speak. They did not see when you closed the door on the conversation that would have vindicated you and chose something harder than speaking instead. And I want to be clear about something here, because I do not want this to be misunderstood. Choosing silence in that moment was not weakness. It was not confusion. It was not you failing to advocate for yourself. It was something much more specific than any of those things. It was a choice made from a particular kind of trust, the trust that says, what is true will find a way to be known without me having to force it into the light. The trust that says, my defense does not always require my own voice to deliver it. The trust that is willing to live in the discomfort of being misunderstood for a season, because the season is not the final word. That is a costly kind of trust. Heaven measured the cost. The third is this. You prayed for someone who hurt you. Maybe not right away. Maybe there was a period of time where what they did was still too close to the surface for that kind of prayer to be honest. But there came a point, in the quiet of a morning or the last hour of a night, where instead of rehearsing what happened or working through what should have been different, you turned your attention toward the person who caused the wound and asked God to move in their life. Not to punish them, not to vindicate you, to heal them, to give them the clarity they need, to release whatever is broken or unresolved in them, so that it stops driving them in the direction it has been driving them. You prayed for the one who did not pray for you. They did not see that prayer. The person you prayed for does not know it happened. There was no one present to confirm that it occurred. It lived entirely in the invisible space between you and God, and it asked nothing in return. And yet that prayer, that specific kind of prayer, the kind that costs the one offering it something real, carries a particular weight in the unseen realm, because it is one of the rarest prayers. The prayer for the one who wounded you is the prayer that only a certain kind of person can offer. It requires a depth of character that is not common. And heaven, when it hears that prayer, hears it with a particular kind of attention. Heaven heard yours. The fourth is this: you returned. I want you to hear that word with precision. I do not mean you went back to the same physical location or the same relationship or the same exact set of circumstances. I mean this: there was a point, and perhaps there have been several, where you had enough reason to stop giving, to stop trusting, to stop showing up for something that had asked too much and given back too little. The accounting, by any reasonable standard, would have justified the exit, and you would not have been wrong to take it. And you went back anyway. They did not see the morning you decided to return. Again, not naively, not without awareness of what returning would cost, but with the faithfulness that the circumstances had not earned from you, that no one had asked you to sustain at this level, that you brought back not because it was required, but because it was who you are. Because your faithfulness is not conditional on the results it produces in the short term. Because the part of you that makes decisions from the deepest place made a calculation that looks different from the way the surface calculations look. And that part chose return. Heaven counted every single one of those returns. Every quiet, unannounced, uncelebrated decision to go back. Every single one. The fifth is this: you stood for someone who did not know you were standing for them. There was a person, or more than one, for whom you interceded, in prayer, or in conversation, or in that particular invisible space where certain things get decided before they ever appear in the visible world. You advocated for someone who was not in the room to advocate for themselves. You held a space open, spiritually, emotionally, in the unseen, for someone who had no knowledge that the space was being held. You gave something: time, energy, attention, prayer, presence, to a person or a cause or a situation where you would receive nothing visible in return. They did not see when you stood for someone who did not know you were standing for them. The people who received what you gave through that standing may not know where it came from. They received a gift that arrived without a name on it, and they may have attributed it to something other than what it was. But the one who assigns intercessors, the one who selects which soul will stand in the gap for which other soul, that one was watching, and heaven watched every single one. Every act of forgiveness before it was asked for, every silence when speaking would have been your right, every prayer for the one who hurt you, every return, every act of standing for someone who did not know you were there. Every single one was seen, every single one was weighed, and every single one was recorded. Before I show you what that recording actually means, before I take you into the ancient language that explains why these specific acts carry the weight they carry, I want to ask something of you right now. If something in those five, even one of them, just found the part of you that has been waiting to be seen, type 444 inches. The comments below. Not for me. As your declaration before heaven that you received this. As your agreement with what was just named, 444. Right now, if that landed where it was meant to. And then stay with me, because what comes next is where this goes much deeper. There is something I need to be transparent with you about before we go further, because truth honors truth, and what you are about to receive deserves honesty before another moment passes. There is a discovery that was made not in the language of faith alone, but in the language of neuroscience. Researchers who spent years asking a very specific question: why do some people consistently act from that place of calm, wise, God-aligned faithfulness, the kind we just described, and others, despite every desire and intention to do the same, find themselves pulled back again and again into patterns of reaction and stress and low-grade desperation? What they found is this. The brain has two states that matter most for someone like you. There is a state that allows you to receive clearly, to hear what is true, to act from the deepest part of yourself, the part that chooses forgiveness, the part that returns, the part that stands for someone when standing costs something. That state has a frequency. Researchers have been able to measure it. And modern life, through the constant pressure of financial stress and relational tension and the anxiety that never fully leaves, has been suppressing it in ways most people are not aware of. And there is a second state, older than the first, something the ancient world recognized and modern neuroscience has now confirmed, a frequency that most of us had fully activated in childhood and that began to dim around the age of 7. A state associated with clarity, with deep intuition, with the kind of knowing that makes people say, "How did you understand that so quickly?" There are two tools I will share with you later in this message that speak directly to both of these. One is called the wealth signal. The other is called the genius song. They are audio tracks built on the science of brain frequency restoration, and I believe they belong in this message for the same reason everything else here belongs. I will return to them because they deserve a full explanation. But I wanted to name them now because what they address is woven into the very things we are about to discuss. And what we are about to discuss is this. If you have made it this far with me, I want to ask one thing of you. Stay until the end of this message, because what is still to come is not more of the same. There is an ancient Hebrew word, a word that appears in the text of a prophet that is going to change entirely how you understand what it means when heaven says it recorded something. There is a story about a shepherd who spent years in a field with no audience and no applause and no confirmation that any of it mattered. And I am going to show you why that story is your story. There is a specific and honest naming of the thing that has been quietly trying to cancel everything you have received so far in this message. And at the very end, there is something that will leave you standing in your identity in a way that you have not stood in it for a long time. The most important parts are still ahead. Stay. Now, you just recognized yourself in those 5 things. And I want to name a thought that may be sitting with you right now. A reasonable thought. Something that sounds like this. Those are meaningful acts. Yes, those are genuinely good things. But surely these are acts that countless people perform in the course of their lives. Surely faithfulness in private, while valuable, is not so rare that it would produce the kind of response I just described. Surely the bar for heaven being shockingly proud cannot be this accessible. That thought is worth taking seriously, and I want to address it directly, not dismiss it. Because what I am about to show you is not that you did 5 nice things. What I am about to show you is why the particular shape of what you did carries a weight that is embedded in the architecture of how heaven actually operates, not in the general sense, but in the very specific sense that a particular ancient text makes visible when you look at it in its original language, rather than in the translation that most of us have received. There is a word, a Hebrew word. It appears in a passage from the prophet Malachi, a passage that contains the clearest description in all of Scripture of what happens when people who fear God and honor His name in private actually do what they do in the unseen places of their lives. And this passage says that something specific happened in response, that something was written, that heaven kept a record. And the word used to describe what that record does, the word at the very center of what I am building toward, is not the word that the English translation gives it. In English, it usually reads as remember. Heaven will remember. God remembered. But the Hebrew word is zakar, and zakar does not mean what we mean when we say remember. What we mean when we say remember is passive retrieval. Information that was stored and is now being brought back to the surface of awareness. Something forgotten, now recalled. Zakar means something entirely different. And when you understand what it means, you will understand why this morning, for you, was not a passive moment of divine memory. It was something much more active than that. But I cannot take you there yet, because the word makes its fullest sense inside a story. And the story I need to take you into first is the story of a field and a family dinner, and a young man who was not invited to it. His name was David. And what is most important to understand about David is not the day he faced the giant or the throne he eventually occupied. What is most important, and what I believe you will recognize, is what happened in the years before any of that. What happened in the field, alone, with the sheep, when no one was watching, when there was no performance possible because there was no one to perform for. Those years were not the waiting room for the real story. They were the real story, and heaven was in that field. Heaven saw what David did when he thought no one was watching. Heaven recorded the battles that no one else knew had happened. Heaven kept a record of the faithfulness that occurred not in front of a crowd, but in the ordinary hours of an ordinary life that had not yet been given the stage it was being prepared for. And in the next part of this, I am going to show you why the field David stood in is the same field you have been standing in. How what was built in him in those hidden years is the same thing that has been built in you, in yours. How the ancient scroll that the prophet described, the Sefer Zikaron, the scroll of remembrance that heaven keeps for those who honor God's name in the private places, that scroll has your name in it. It has been there for longer than you know, and the response to what is written in it has been set in motion. It was set in motion this morning. The town of Bethlehem was not prepared for what was about to arrive. There was a man named Jesse who had 8 sons. He was a well-regarded man, a man of standing, and his sons were, by most reasonable measures, impressive. When the prophet Samuel arrived with his anointing oil and the instructions he had been given, Jesse's household was prepared the way families prepare when something significant is coming. The sons were called in. They stood before the man of God. The first one Samuel saw was Eliab. And something about Eliab made Samuel pause. He was tall. He had the kind of presence that stops a room. And Samuel's first thought, his honest, understandable, human first thought, was, surely this is the one. Surely what I am looking for is standing right in front of me. And God spoke, and what God said was not, you are right, that is him. What God said was something that has been traveling through every generation that has read it since. He said, do not look at the outward appearance. Do not look at how tall he is. The Lord does not see the way that a man sees. A man sees what is on the surface, but the Lord looks at the heart. So Eliab passed, and Abinadab passed, and Shammah passed, and 4 more sons after them, each one presenting himself, each one measuring up to every external standard a human being could bring to an evaluation, and each one passing by without the oil being opened. 7 sons, not one of them. And Samuel turned to Jesse and said, are these all your sons? And Jesse's answer tells you something important. He said, well, there is the youngest, but he is with the sheep. He did not say it with urgency. He did not say, let me go get him. There is one more. Let me bring him in so you can see him too. He said it the way you mention something you do not consider worth mentioning. There is also this one. He is out in the field. He is doing the task that is given to the least significant member of the family. His name was David. And David was not in the room, because David was not in the category. In his father's mental accounting, David did not register as a candidate for what Samuel was looking for. Not because there was something wrong with him, but because the world's measurement system, even in that household, even in a family that knew God, had produced a conclusion about who matters and who does not. And David had been filed in the category that does not matter. He was in the field when the most important moment of his life, up to that point, was happening without him. And I want you to sit with that before I go further, because that detail, the fact that David was not even invited to the table, the fact that Jesse did not think to include him, the fact that the son who would be king was in a field with sheep while his brothers were being considered, that is not a footnote. That is not a minor awkwardness in the story that gets resolved quickly and then forgotten. That detail is the story, because what it tells you is this. The place David was occupying when his destiny arrived was the place that nobody considered significant. He was not in the meeting. He was not on the list. He was not in the room where the important things were happening. He was outside, in the ordinary, unglamorous work of his current assignment, tending to sheep that had been entrusted to him, doing what no one was watching him do, faithful in a field that had not yet been given any larger meaning. And when they finally sent for him, when someone ran out to call him in, David came, still carrying the smell of the outdoors, still present in the way that someone is present when they have just come from a real place and a real task. He had not been sitting somewhere rehearsing a speech about how qualified he was. He had been in the field, doing what the field required, with no awareness that the moment he was about to step into had been shaped by everything he had been doing out there while no one was watching. Samuel poured the oil on his head, and the anointing happened. And then, almost immediately, David went back to work, because the anointing does not always remove you from the field right away. Sometimes the anointing happens while you are still in it, and the full meaning of what was poured over you only becomes clear much later, after the field has finished what it was designed to do. Now, here is what I need to tell you about the years before Samuel arrived, because the story most people know is the story of David and Goliath. The moment where the young man from the field steps forward, while every trained soldier stands back and says, "Who is this giant, and why is everyone afraid of him?" The moment where the stone finds the target and the battle is over before it begins, that moment is real, that moment is extraordinary. But it did not happen the day after David left the sheep. There were years between the field and the giant, years where David went back to the ordinary work, years where he was, by every visible measure, simply a young man taking care of animals. Years where nothing happened that any observer would have written down. Years that would not make it into the songs, would not be featured in the chapters that people turned to when they wanted the compelling part of the story. But in those years, in those invisible, uncelebrated, audience-free years, things happened in the field that the rest of the story required. There was a lion. It came for the sheep the way that threats always come, without warning, with full intention. And David, who was the only one present, who had no one to assist him and no one to witness whatever he was about to decide, went after it. He did not wait for the situation to resolve itself. He did not look around for someone more qualified. He went after the lion, and he prevailed, and the sheep were safe. No one recorded that. No announcement was made. No one told the story at dinner, because no one knew it happened except the one who was there, and the one who made it possible. Heaven recorded it. And then there was a bear, and the same thing happened. The same decision, the same commitment, the same willingness to face something overwhelming in a place where no reward was waiting and no audience was present. Heaven recorded that one too, and there were others. Other unnamed moments where the field tested the one who was in it. Other hours where the character being built was built in the only way real character can be built, through actual circumstances that require actual choices, when nothing is guaranteed and nobody is watching. Every single one was recorded. And this is one of the most important things I will say in this entire message. David did not become capable of facing Goliath the day before Goliath appeared. The field was not the waiting room. The field was the formation. The courage that walked out to face the giant was not manufactured that morning. It was built over years of private battles that no one else knew had been won. The trust that let him step forward while trained soldiers stood back was not the result of an overnight decision to be brave. It was the accumulated weight of every moment in the field, where trust was the only available option and had proved, again and again, to be enough. What looked from the outside like the idle time of the youngest son, the undistinguished years of a shepherd doing the least significant job in the family, was the most important preparation happening in Israel at that time. And the only one who knew that was the one who was watching. The Lord looks at the heart. And what the Lord saw in the field was not a young man wasting time waiting for his real life to begin. What the Lord saw was someone being formed into the specific shape that the assignment ahead required, and being formed in the only place that kind of formation is possible. The hidden place, the private place, the place where the only relationship that matters is the one between the person being formed and the one doing the forming. And here is what I hear the Father saying about you in this hour. I want you to receive this carefully, because this is not a general word for a general audience. This is for the one who has been in the field. I hear him saying, I was there when no one else was there. I heard the prayer you prayed alone, in the car, in the quiet of the early morning, when you did not know how anything was going to resolve. I counted the moment when you chose to return, when leaving would have been so much easier. I was in the room when you made the decision to forgive before anyone asked you to, and I watched you make it, and I was moved by it, and I wrote it down, not because you performed it for me, because it was real, because it cost you something, because it showed me the shape of what is being built in you, and the shape of what is being built in you is exactly the shape that what is coming requires. I was in the field with you. Every single year you were in it, and I am proud of what I saw there. Now, let me show you the ancient word that makes all of this precise, because what I just described is not a poetic idea. It is not a comforting image that sounds beautiful, but has nothing beneath it. It is embedded in a text that was written by a prophet, and the language that text uses to describe what heaven does with the faithfulness of people like you. When you look at it in the original language it was first spoken in, it says something the English translation has not fully carried. The passage is in the 3rd chapter of Malachi. It begins by describing a conversation. The people who feared the Lord, the ones who honored his name not in the public places where doing so has social advantages, but in the private places where the only one who can see is the one who sees everything, those people were speaking with each other. And the passage says the Lord listened, not casually, not the way you might half hear something while other things are happening. The Lord heard. And it says that in response to what he heard, something was written in his presence about those people, about the ones who feared him and honored his name in the hidden places. In the English, that record is called a scroll of remembrance. In the Hebrew, it is the Sefer Zikaron. Sefer is a straightforward word, a book, a formal written record, not a note you take to remember a small thing, but the kind of writing that carries legal significance, that has permanence, that does not fade with the day. But the second word is the one that changes everything. Zikaron comes from a root. That root is zakar, and zakar is the word that most English translations render as remember, which is why when you read that God remembered Noah after the flood, or that God remembered Abraham, or that God remembered Rachel. The English says remembered, but zakar does not mean what we mean when we say remember. When we say remember, we mean a passive mental event, information that was stored at some point and is now being retrieved, something that was in the background of awareness and has been brought back. There is nothing active about it, nothing necessarily consequential. Remembering a thing does not require that anything be done in response. Zakar means the opposite. Zakar means to actively engage with, to enter into a living relationship with, to bring to the center of one's full attention, not for passive recollection, but for responsive action. When the Hebrew text says that God zakared Noah, it does not mean God passively retrieved a memory. It means God entered into active, intentional, consequential engagement with Noah's situation. It means the full attention and intention of heaven was brought to bear on what Noah was experiencing. It means something was about to move. Every single time zakar appears in the Hebrew text in connection with God's relationship to a person, something happens. The waters recede, a child is born, a nation is delivered, a door opens, a path forms, the invisible becomes visible. Zakar is not the passive memory of a God who is keeping track of many things. Zakar is the active, engaged, intentional, responsive attention of a God who has placed someone in the center of his concern and is now moving in accordance with what he has observed. And the Sefer Zikaron, the scroll Malachi described, is not a filing cabinet. It is an activation document. What is written in it does not sit quietly. What is written in it sets something in motion. The record that was made about you, the zakar that occurred in response to what your faithfulness has been building into, is not passive. It is already moving. What it will produce is already in motion, in the unseen places where things are arranged before they appear in the visible ones. Let that land. Let me pause here, because we have just covered something that deserves more than a passing moment. You have been evaluating whether the invisible things you have been doing actually matter by looking at the visible results that have or have not changed. And I understand why. We live in a world that runs on visible feedback. When the visible feedback does not come, the conclusion that forms quietly in the background is, maybe the invisible things did not travel as far as I hoped. But zakar does not travel through visible channels first. Zakar begins its work in the unseen places, in the realm where arrangements are made before they appear, in the architecture of events that are not yet visible, but are already being constructed. And the evidence that zakar has occurred is not always a dramatic change in what you can currently see. Sometimes the evidence arrives in a way you almost miss. A door that opens quietly, a conversation that happens without being planned, a sense of clarity, arriving in the morning when clarity has been absent for a long time, a path forming where there was no path before. The record is active. The response is in motion. What I want you to receive right now, before we go further, is simply this. Your faithfulness has been building toward a point, and that point has been reached, and heaven has not looked at it passively. Heaven has zakared you. Heaven has entered into active, intentional engagement in response to what has been accumulating, and the consequence of that engagement is already unfolding in the places you cannot see yet. Breathe. Just one breath. Slow. You have been carrying the question of whether it matters, and I want you to set it down for a moment. Not forever. Just right now. Let this be the moment where the question gets answered rather than carried. Because the answer is not that you need to wait and see. Heaven has already seen. Heaven has already responded. The zakar has occurred, and the record is not waiting for permission to become something in your life. It has already started. David came in from the field, and Samuel poured the oil. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him from that day forward. From that day forward. Not from the day of the coronation. Not from the day he stepped toward the giant. From the ordinary day in his father's house, when oil was poured over a shepherd who smelled like work and had not been considered worth calling in. From that day, in the field and in everything that followed the field, the Spirit of the Lord was with him in a new and specific way, because the field was complete. The formation the field was designed to accomplish had reached the point where the next stage could begin, not because David had done everything perfectly, but because what was being built had been built, and heaven knew it was built, and heaven moved in response. If this message is finding you in this season, there is a reason for the timing. The field you have been in has been doing something. The invisible faithfulness, the quiet returns, the prayers no one else heard, the forgiveness you gave before it was asked for. These things have not been accumulating toward nothing. They have been accumulating toward a completion, a point where the formation reaches what it was building toward, a point where the record has weight enough to zakah, and when the record has that weight, heaven does not stay still. Before I go further, I want to ask something of you. If the David story has been echoing in the field you have been standing in, if something in the last few minutes found the place in you that has been waiting to be found, press like right now. Not for this message. Press it so it reaches someone else whose field has been silent for too long. Someone who has been faithful where no audience could see them, and who needs to know that heaven was watching the whole time. Press it for them. There is a second word, and this one describes not what heaven does with the record, but what you have been doing that makes the record worth keeping. The word is emunah. In most English Bibles, it is translated as faith. And when we hear faith, most of us reach for something internal, a feeling, a degree of confidence, a state of belief that can go up and down depending on the circumstances we are in, the fear we are carrying, the mourning we are having. Faith, as most of us experience it, is something that lives in the region of emotion, and we spend a great deal of energy trying to hold on to it when it threatens to slip. But emunah is not that. Emunah comes from a Hebrew root that means to be firm, to be steady, to be consistent. You may recognize it from a word you have heard before, the word Amen. When you say Amen at the end of a prayer, you are using a word from the same root as emunah. Amen means, this is true, I agree with it, I am aligning my voice with it, and my alignment is not conditional on whether the evidence currently visible to me confirms it. Emunah is not a feeling. Emunah is a practice. It is the practice of acting in accordance with what you believe to be true, even when the circumstances are not yet confirming that truth. It is faithfulness in action. It is not the warm feeling of trust. It is the consistent, daily, unremarkable, unglamorous behavior of a person who has decided that what God says is real and is living accordingly, regardless of what the current visible evidence suggests. What you have been doing in this season is emunah, not the comfortable kind, not the kind that happens easily when results are confirming your belief and the path is clear and the people around you are supportive. The kind that continues after the confirmation stopped arriving. The kind that gets up again after it has been knocked down by the same circumstances for the third time, the fourth time, and says, I still believe this is true, and I am still going to act like it is true, because that is who I am, and that is what I was made for. That is emunah. And this is why heaven does not record polite, surface-level behavior. Heaven records emunah, because emunah is the rarest thing. Because emunah, by definition, can only exist in the conditions where it is genuinely costly, where you could reasonably stop, where the circumstances have given you every justification to let go of the practice and choose the easier pattern instead. And you did not let go. That is what was written in the Sefer Zikaron. Not your performance, not your appearance, your emunah. And the God who wrote it down is, in this moment, shockingly proud. Now, what does the record actually release into your life? Because Zakar is not only descriptive, it is consequential. The active engagement of heaven with what you have been doing does not simply produce a warm feeling of being seen. It produces movement. And the movement happens in specific areas. The first is this. Things are shifting in ways you cannot fully see yet. I want to be careful here, because I do not want to overreach what I am actually able to say. What I am saying is not that tomorrow morning you will wake up and everything will be dramatically different, that a bank account will have changed overnight, or a relationship will be resolved, or a door will open with a clear sign on it saying, "This is the one." This is what the Zakar produced. What I am saying is more precise than that, and at the same time, more reliable. When heaven engages actively with a life, the engagement begins in the invisible places first. In the unseen realm, where arrangements are made before they appear. In the architecture of what is coming, which is being built right now, in the same way a building is constructed for a long time underground, in the foundation, before anything visible rises above the surface. And the evidence of that underground work is not usually a sudden dramatic appearance. It is the accumulation of small things. A door that was stuck beginning to open. A word that arrives when you needed a specific word. A shift in how a particular situation feels, not because the circumstances have changed yet, but because something in the unseen has changed and the circumstances are beginning to align with it. That shift is real. It is happening right now. The record is active, and the first area where active records produce movement is in the architecture of what is coming, which is already being arranged. The second area is this. What has been taken from you is being gathered for return. Not everything at once, not in the way a refund arrives with a specific amount on a specific date, but in the way that seasons move, in the way that what was lost in winter begins to return in spring, not because you forced it, but because the season changed, and the change of seasons follows a law that is older and more reliable than any human system. There is a word in Scripture that the Hebrew pronounces as shalom. It is related to the word shalom, the word for peace, and it carries within it a very specific kind of completeness. Not just the absence of conflict, the presence of everything that should be there, the whole thing, the full amount, what was meant to be there, restored to its proper place. What you have given in faithfulness, what you have poured out in the seasons where the giving was not matched by receiving, that is not lost. It is not absorbed into silence. It is held by the same God who zakared you, and it is in the process of being returned. Not because you earned it in some transactional sense, but because the character of the God who made the record does not allow what is faithful to remain unrestored. What was taken, it is being gathered, and its return is moving in your direction. And there is a third area, one that may surprise you more than the first two, one that connects directly to the David story, in a way I think is going to land very specifically for you. I am going to take you there in just a moment. But first I need to name something, because this is the place in the message where a certain kind of listener begins to feel a quiet internal resistance. Not dramatic, not a loud objection, something quieter. A slow, practiced voice that has been present for a long time. A voice that knows how to wait for moments like this one, when something good is being received, and then arrives just as the receiving begins. The voice sounds something like this. Did God actually notice? Not as an urgent question, more like a flat statement wearing the costume of a question. the kind that does not erupt, but settles, the kind that plants itself in the middle of what you are trying to receive and makes it slightly less solid. Has the faithfulness I have been practicing actually been building towards something real? Or have I been telling myself a story about deposits in an account I cannot verify exists? That voice is not going to go away by pretending it is not there. So in the next part of this, I am going to address it directly. I am going to show you where it comes from. I am going to show you why it has felt so convincing for so long, despite the fact that it has been applying the wrong measurement system to the right reality. And I am going to show you the specific third area of what heaven is releasing, the one that the voice has been trying hardest to take from you, and why it cannot take it once you see it clearly. But first, I want to hear from you. 3 words in the comments right now. I see it. If something in what I have described, the zakah, the emunah, the idea that what was taken is being gathered for return, if something in that has found you, type it right now. I see it. As your declaration that the truth arrived where it was sent. Because what comes next is the part that seals it, and it requires you to be fully present for it. The third area of what heaven is releasing is the one that David understood only after the fact. He did not understand it in the field. He could not have understood it there, because the field is not the place where you see what the field was building. You only see that from the other side, from the place where what was formed in the hidden season gets expressed in the open one, and the people who observe it have no explanation for where it came from, because they were not there when the formation happened. David's brothers said, "Who does this young man think he is?" When he arrived at the battlefield and began asking questions about the giant and why everyone was standing still, his own brother Eliab spoke sharply to him. "Why are you here? Go back to your sheep. Who do you think you are?" Eliab did not know about the lion. He did not know about the bear. He had no access to the record of what had happened in the field during all the years David had been in it, because none of that had been performed for an audience. Eliab was evaluating David by what he could see, and what he could see was a young man with no resume for this situation. But David's resume was not stored in a place Eliab could access. It was stored in the Sefer Zikaron. And here is what I want you to hear about your own life. The reputation that is worth having is not the one you build through the visible moments. Those moments matter. They are real. But the reputation that lasts, the one that carries genuine weight, the one that cannot be dismantled by a rumor, or erased by a season, or reversed by a setback, is the one that is built by what was observed in the hidden place and is now being confirmed in the open one. You do not need to self-promote what heaven has already recorded. Think about the people in your life who carry a particular kind of authority that you cannot fully explain. Not the authority of volume or position or social capital. Something quieter than all of that. Something that makes you trust what they say before they have given you every reason to. Something that does not announce itself, but makes itself known by its consistent presence over time. That kind of authority is not manufactured. It is not the result of a campaign. It is the fruit of what was grown in the seasons where nobody was watching, and where the only source of fuel was the one that comes from faithfulness, maintained in the absence of external confirmation. That is being built in you, not by your own effort, not by your own strategy, by the God who records emunah and honors the shape of what he sees in the hidden place, by building in the visible one what the hidden place produced. Your reputation before the people who matter is being prepared, not by you, by heaven, and you do not have to help it along, except by continuing to live the same way you have been living, which you were going to do anyway, because that is who you are. And this is the moment I hear the Father speaking over you with something that I do not want to water down or qualify into smallness. I want you to receive this. What I am about to say is not a general blessing for everyone in similar circumstances. I hear this as specifically yours, placed on my heart in the way that specific things are placed, the kind you cannot explain the specificity of, except by saying that it arrived with a name on it, and the name is yours. I hear him saying this. The years you gave me in the field, I saw every single one of them, and I did not look away from a single hour. Not the hours that felt like progress, and not the hours that felt like endurance. Not the days when the faithfulness came easily, and not the days when it cost you everything you had left, and you gave it anyway. I was present in all of it. I was not distant from it. I was not observing it from a far remove, with a neutral expression, waiting to see how it turned out. I was close. And I want you to hear clearly what the record shows about those years. It shows faithfulness that was not performed. It shows a person who did the right thing in the hidden places, not because there was an audience watching, but because the hidden places are where real character lives or does not live, and yours was living there. It shows emunah, the practiced kind, the kind that keeps showing up even when the showing up does not produce immediate confirmation. I am not just satisfied by what I saw, I am proud of it, the kind of proud that does not stay private. The kind that has already been producing movement in the unseen places, arranging what is coming in alignment with what was built in what has already been. The kind that, when the time is right, and the time is coming, will be visible not just to you but to the ones who need to see it. Your field is complete, and what comes next has been prepared for the one the field produced. I want to share something with you before we go further. A story that is not mine. One I heard from someone who carries it and who gave permission for it to be passed along to whoever needed to receive it. There is a woman. She is in her mid-40s, and for the past 3 years she has been the primary caregiver for her mother, who has been in a gradual and difficult decline in health. Not a dramatic crisis that produces immediate community response. The quiet, slow kind. The kind that requires presence day after day, decision after decision, without the clarity of a defined endpoint or the energy of an acute emergency that draws people close. She has done this largely without witnesses. Her children know something of it. But children of a certain age are in the middle of their own lives, and the details of what a parent carries daily do not always travel fully into their awareness. Her siblings have been distant, one in particular with whom there has been a significant estrangement for years, a silence that had settled into a kind of permanent arrangement that no one expected to change. She did not advertise what she was doing. She did not post about it. She did not keep a running account of the sacrifices being made, or the hours being given, or the cost, which was real, and which continued accumulating in ways that nobody was measuring except the one who was watching. She prayed, not with great feeling every morning, she told me. More often just a simple and honest acknowledgement in the direction of God. I am here. I am continuing. I do not always know why or for how long, but I am continuing. That was her emunah. That was what the field required of her, and she gave it. 3 weeks ago, the same week, she received 3 things she had not asked for and had stopped expecting. The first was a phone call from her estranged sibling, not an occasion that would explain the call, not a birthday or a crisis, or a formal moment where a reconciliation might be expected, just a call. Quiet. Her sibling said, "I have been thinking about you. I do not fully know why now. I am sorry for the years of distance. I wanted you to know that." The second was a conversation with her mother's physician, who said something the same week that he had not said before, that her mother's condition had stabilized in a way that was not typical for this stage of the progression, that he could not explain it fully, that whatever was happening was working in a direction he had not expected. And the third was a message from a volunteer organization that somehow had her name and wanted to acknowledge the work she had been doing. She does not know how her name reached them. She has no memory of submitting it anywhere. 3 things. 1 week. She had not done anything differently that week. She had not prayed more urgently or given more visibly or announced herself in any new way. The week itself was ordinary, but the record that had been building for 3 years, the Sefer Zikaron that had been accumulating weight across thousands of hours of invisible emunah, had reached a point, and heaven had zakered. She told me this with a kind of quiet amazement, not a triumphant declaration. The amazement of someone who had stopped expecting a visible response and then received one from 3 directions in the same week, and who recognized in that convergence something that was not coincidence. She said, "I did not know heaven had been paying such close attention, but it had. Heaven was paying that close attention the entire time. It is paying that close attention to you." And this is where I need to close the loop that I opened at the beginning, because the 3 areas of what heaven is releasing are not 3 separate events waiting in line to arrive at 3 separate times. They are the same movement, seen from 3 different angles. The shifting of what was stuck, the returning of what was taken, the building of what your faithfulness earned without your having to build it yourself. These are not 3 things. They are one thing, moving through your life from the inside of the unseen toward the surface of the visible, and doing so on a timeline that is not yours to control, but that you can trust, because the one managing it is the same one who managed the timing of the oil on David's head, and the timing of the phone call to the woman who had been caring for her mother in silence for 3 years. The timing is not random. And the fact that this message found you in this particular season is part of the same timing. Heaven is active. Heaven has zakared. The response is already in motion. But before I can take you to the next thing, before I can show you what has been waiting on the other side of all of this, the specific names that heaven has for you, the specific understanding of something in the architecture of your own mind that will explain why receiving all of this has been harder than it should have been, there is something I cannot skip. Because the one who leaves a moment like this without addressing what is about to happen is setting the listener up for something I have seen too many times. The message lands, the truth lands, the zakah feels real, the emunah feels recognized, something in the invisible feels like it shifted, and then life continues. And the ordinary pressures of ordinary existence begin their movement back toward the center, and within a few days, sometimes within a few hours, a voice that has been waiting quietly on the side of everything, waiting with practiced patience for exactly this kind of moment, begins to speak again. And what it says is very quiet and very specific and very hard to argue with directly. It says, "But did God really notice?" Not loud, not dramatic, just steady and cool and slightly flat, the way a voice sounds when it has been saying the same thing for long enough that it has stopped needing to raise itself to be heard. Did the invisible things I did actually register? Is the record I have been trusting is being kept actually as thorough as I hoped? Is the faithfulness I have been practicing for this long actually building toward something real? Or have I been telling myself the kind of story that people tell themselves when the visible evidence is not cooperating? That voice has been present in your life for a while, and I am not going to pretend it is not there, because the ones who tell you to simply ignore it or speak louder over it have usually not spent much time sitting in the particular silence where it lives. What I want to do instead is take it apart, not dismiss it. Take it apart, piece by piece, and show you exactly where it comes from and why it has felt so convincing for so long, and why that convincingness is not evidence that it is right. The voice comes from a system that is not malfunctioning. That is important to understand. The voice does not arise from weakness or from insufficient faith, or from a failure of spiritual formation. It arises from a system that is doing exactly what it was designed to do, applied to a situation it was not designed for. Here is what the system is. You have been shaped, over years of living in a world that runs on visible feedback, to equate acknowledgement with reality. When you do something and receive a response, the system registers, this happened, this mattered, this was real. When you do something and receive no response, the system flags, unclear, unverified, cannot confirm, this made contact. That is not a character flaw. That is a calibrated nervous system functioning in the environment it was trained in. School systems run on it, workplaces run on it, social relationships run on it. Do the thing, receive the confirmation, register the reality of the thing. The feedback loop is not a luxury. It is how most of the systems you participate in actually work. But heaven does not work that way. Heaven's feedback loop does not travel through the visible first. It begins in the unseen realm, moves through the architecture of what is being arranged, and eventually arrives in the visible, but on a timeline that has nothing to do with the speed of a human notification system. So, when you apply the logic of your very reasonable, very functional, very well-calibrated response system to the relationship between your faithfulness and God's acknowledgement of it, the system produces a false negative. Not because nothing is happening, because what is happening is traveling through a channel the system was not built to detect. The voice that says, "Did God even notice?" is not a wise voice identifying a real problem. It is a well-meaning system making the wrong measurement. And underneath the measurement problem, there is something else. Something that has been sitting beneath the surface of the question for longer than the question has been asking itself. There were seasons in this period of faithfulness where your emunah cost you something relational. Not just the big visible costs, the ones that were obvious and that everyone around you understood. I mean the specific, quiet, relational cost of choosing the honest thing when the easier thing would have been to soften the truth enough to keep the peace. The cost of drawing a boundary that protected what God was building in you, when the person on the other side of that boundary had expected a different response and was hurt or confused by the one you gave. You chose faithfulness, and someone was disappointed, and the guilt of that disappointment did something that the other costs did not do, because it did not feel like the lion or the bear. The clear and obvious threat that you faced and overcome with clear and obvious courage. It felt like something quieter and more morally ambiguous, like maybe the faithfulness you were practicing was at someone else's expense. Like maybe there was a version of being obedient to your calling that did not require other people to pay a price for it. Like maybe the right thing and the kind thing and the faith-driven thing should all point in the same direction, and when they do not, the one to question is the path you chose. That guilt is real. I am not dismissing it, but I want to name what it actually is, because naming it correctly changes everything about how you carry it. The guilt you felt when you chose emunah over approval is not evidence that you made the wrong decision. It is evidence that you genuinely love the people whose expectations you did not meet. People who love shallowly do not feel this kind of guilt. This guilt is the particular texture of someone with a deep heart, navigating a world where deep hearts are sometimes required to make choices that shallow hearts do not have to make. The guilt does not mean you were wrong. It means you cared about the cost to others, even while you were paying your own. And that caring, that specific texture of guilt that lives in a person of genuine emunah who has had to make hard choices, that is one of the things that was recorded. Heaven saw the cost. Heaven recorded it with the same thoroughness it recorded the lion and the bear. And now, the deepest layer, because beneath the measurement problem, and beneath the relational guilt, there is a belief that has been operating so quietly for so long that it has not needed to introduce itself. It has simply been there, shaping the way everything else gets processed, making certain conclusions feel obvious and certain questions feel unnecessary. The belief is this: if God were genuinely engaged with my faithfulness in the way I have been taught to believe, I would see more visible confirmation of that by now. Read that carefully, because it sounds reasonable on the surface. It is not mean-spirited. It does not arrive with hostility toward God. It is simply a reasonable human calculation based on the evidence that is currently available in the visible realm. But the calculation has a flaw buried in it. The flaw is the word visible. The belief assumes that divine engagement must produce visible confirmation in order to qualify as real divine engagement. That the absence of visible confirmation is evidence of the absence of engagement. That if heaven had truly zakkared, something would have arrived in the visible by now that you could point to and say, there, that is the confirmation, that is the evidence that the record is active. And sometimes that visible confirmation does arrive, and the woman with the 3 phone calls in 1 week knows that it does. But sometimes the zakar is producing its movement entirely underground, in the architecture of what is coming, in the arrangement of people and circumstances and doors that have not yet appeared but are being prepared. And the invisible activity of an active record looks, from the visible side, indistinguishable from silence. This is the belief that needs to be released, not the faithfulness, the requirement that the faithfulness receive visible confirmation on your timeline in order to qualify as mattering. Because here is what I know about what has been happening during the season you have been in. What looked like neglect was actually observation from a height you could not see from where you were standing. What looked like delay was actually accumulation, and every single act of faithfulness was being added to a weight that required time to reach its fullness. The way a river requires the contribution of thousands of streams over a long season before it has the force to move what it was always capable of moving. What looked like silence was actually the most attentive listening in the universe, the kind that does not need to announce itself to be real, the kind that was already shaping a response before the full shape of the question had finished forming. And what looked like abandonment was actually the field, the same field where the shepherd was formed before the kingdom was given, the same hidden place where the character was built that the visible season ahead requires. Not a punishment, not an oversight. The specific, necessary, precisely timed field that every chosen one stands in before the next stage becomes possible. The measurement was wrong, not the faithfulness, the measurement. And now, I want to give you permission for something, not in a casual way, with the weight that real permission carries when it comes from the right source. You are allowed to do the right thing without a witness. You are allowed to give what costs you something without requiring that the cost be acknowledged before you are willing to give it again. You are allowed to let the record that heaven is keeping be sufficient, even when the record that the people around you are keeping is incomplete. You are allowed to trust a system that does not run on human timelines, that does not send confirmation emails, that does not always produce visible movement in the window where you are most in need of something visible. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing faithfulness over the version of yourself that would have been easier for them to receive. That permission is not new. It has been waiting at the edge of this conversation since before this message began. I am simply being the voice that makes it audible in this particular moment for this particular person who has needed to hear it for longer than they may have realized. Now, I want to do something with you before we move into what comes next. Because releasing a belief is not the same as thinking about releasing it. And I know that what I am asking you to release has been present for a long time and has roots that a few minutes of good content will not fully dislodge on their own. That is not a failure of the content. That is just how deep patterns work. So here is what I want you to do, and you can do this wherever you are right now. Sitting, driving, lying down. It does not require any movement. In the interior place where real decisions happen, the place that is more honest than your public face and quieter than your loudest thoughts, I want you to find the question. You know the one. The slow, flat, practiced version of, did God even notice? You know where it lives in you. It has a familiar address. Find it. And now, on your next exhale, not out loud but in that same interior place, say these words as though they are true, not because you feel certain of them yet, but as an act of emunah, as the practice of a person who lives in accordance with what they believe, even when the belief is not yet fully confirmed. The record is active. The response is in motion. I release my need to see the timeline. Say it again, if you need to, not to convince yourself, as a declaration. As a person who has decided that the measurement system they have been using is the wrong one for this situation, and who is choosing, in this moment, to trust the system that heaven uses instead. The record is active. The response is in motion. I release my need to see the timeline. And right now, in the comments below, type 2 words as your seal on what you just did. I release. Not for engagement, not as a formality, as your agreement with the truth that just arrived and your decision to hold on to it. I release, right now, if this moment found you where it was sent. There is something important I need to tell you before the next part of this message begins, because what is coming is the part where everything that has been built in this conversation becomes something you can actually carry with you. I have been building toward a set of names, specific names that heaven has assigned to you, not as titles you have to earn, but as identities you are being called to claim, names that describe who you have already been in the field and who you are being sent as into what comes next. But before those names can fully land, there is a layer underneath all of this that I have not addressed yet. A layer that is not spiritual in the obvious sense. It is architectural. It lives in the physical structure of how your mind processes what it receives, and the neuroscience behind it, the specific discovery about what happens in the brain of a person who has been living under prolonged stress, explains something that I think you have been wondering about for a while. Why is it so hard to receive this? Why does truth like this tend to land and then, within hours or days, begin to feel less solid, less certain? Why does the recognition that arrived so clearly during a message like this one sometimes seem to fade before the week is out? Not because the truth changed, but because something in the receiving equipment did not hold it the way it should have. There is an answer to that question, a scientific one, and it connects directly to the 2 tools I mentioned briefly earlier in this message, the ones I promised to return to. In the next part, I am going to bring both of those threads together. The names that heaven has for you, the specific identities that describe what has been formed in your field, and the understanding of why your receiving capacity has been operating below what it was designed for, and what has been built to restore it. Both of those things are in the next part. Do not leave before them, because the most personal part of this message is still to come. There is something I want to take a moment to lay out clearly before we go into what comes next, because what I am about to share will make more sense if you have the full picture first. And the full picture has 2 layers that I have been building toward, separately, and that now need to be seen together. The first layer is the one we spent most of this time in, the spiritual architecture of what has been happening in your life, the emunah that has been building the record, the zakar that has occurred in response to what the record holds, the three areas of movement that are already in motion in the unseen places. All of that is real. All of that is the primary substance of what this message is about. But there is a second layer, and it is not separate from the first. It is underneath it. Here is what I mean. The reason receiving what I have described has been harder than it should be is not entirely a matter of faith. Part of it is structural. Part of it lives in the physical architecture of how your mind processes information, specifically how it processes the kind of deep, spiritually significant, identity-level information that a message like this carries. And when you understand what has been happening in that architecture, two things become clear. The first is why the truths that land in a moment like this one sometimes do not stay the way they should. Not because the truth is not real, because the system responsible for holding it has been operating under a sustained pressure that has reduced its capacity to hold things at depth. That pressure has a name. Researchers who have spent years studying it call it beta hyperactivity. What most of us call it is stress, not the acute, temporary kind that spikes and resolves. The low-grade, constant, background kind that has been present for long enough that it has stopped feeling like a condition and started feeling like the weather. Always there, always, subtly shaping the baseline, creating what some researchers describe as a kind of neural rigidity, a state in which the part of the brain responsible for receiving and integrating new information is effectively at the door with its arms crossed. Not because anything is wrong with the person, but because the system has been in protection mode for too long to easily shift into reception mode. That state makes receiving feel difficult. It makes the deep things feel slippery. It is the reason a truth can land clearly in 1 hour and feel significantly less solid in the next. And the second layer operates alongside it, but separately. Beginning around the age of 7, as the ordinary pressures of growing up in a world that measures and grades and ranks begin to accumulate, something happens in the brain's frequency profile. A particular brainwave, the one most associated with peak clarity, deep intuition, and what many people remember as the effortless intelligence of early childhood, begins to dim, slowly, quietly. Over years, researchers who have studied this process call it the decline effect, and what it describes is the gradual suppression of the gamma frequency, the brainwave that, in its fully active state, is associated with what the ancient world called wisdom and what the modern world calls genius, and with the particular quality of presence that allows a person to act consistently from their deepest self rather than from the reactive surface. Most adults are operating with gamma significantly dimmed, not because something went wrong with them, because something happened to almost all of us in the transition from childhood to adult life, and the transition cost us a frequency that we were born with in full. What I want you to understand is that these two things, the alpha suppression and the gamma dimming, are not separate problems that require separate conversations. They are the two-wave nature of the chosen one that modern life has been systematically working against. And the reason so many things you have tried, the practices, the courses, the periods of intense intention, the cycles of hope and diminishing return, have touched something but not held it, is that each of those things addressed one layer at a time while the other layer remained. And a one-layer solution for a two-layer problem will always produce a partial result. What you were born with was both waves active, both frequencies running at the level they were designed to run at. You remember this state, even if you would not call it by this name. There was a time, probably in early childhood, when both calm and clarity were natural, when presence did not require effort, when knowing what to do arrived without the labor of forcing it through a system that was not cooperating, When what you now experience as scattered, reactive, foggy, slightly always behind, simply was not the texture of your daily inner life. That state is not a memory of innocence that cannot return. It is the design of who you are, temporarily disrupted and capable of being restored. That is what I want to tell you about now. There is a man I want to tell you about first, before I tell you what was discovered. He is in his late 40s. He works in sales, and he has worked hard at it for a long time. The kind of hard that produces a certain income and also a certain kind of invisible cost that the income does not compensate for. He described himself as someone who came home every night feeling like a phone that had been in use all day and was down to 5%, and not in a way that sleep fully resolved, because the sleep was not clean either, because the background of financial pressure and work pressure and the pressure of feeling like he was never quite fully present did not switch off when his eyes closed. His wife told him at some point that he was not really there anymore, even when he was physically in the room. He did not argue with her, because he knew she was right, and he did not know what to do about it. He had not lost his faith. He still prayed. He still believed. But the praying and the believing were happening in a mind that was perpetually in a state that is not built for receiving, and the gap between what he knew in a head and what he was able to access in his daily experience kept widening in a way he could not reverse by trying harder. He told me that after 11 days of working with the tool I am about to describe, he found himself doing something he had not done in 4 years. He took a weekend where he did not respond to a single work message, not because he decided to be disciplined about it, because the compulsion that had been driving that pattern simply was not as loud as it had been. He had negotiated a boundary with a senior colleague at work that he had wanted to negotiate for 2 years and had not been able to bring himself to start. He said, "The number on my paycheck did not change. What changed was that I came back into the room where my family was. His stress levels had not disappeared. His circumstances had not changed. But something in the system running underneath the circumstances had shifted, and the shift was measurable." What was discovered by a neuroscientist who spent years in research before stepping outside the mainstream to release what he had found, and whose work draws on research conducted at Stanford and Boston University and other institutions that have studied brainwave function and its relationship to how people make decisions, process experience, and move through the world, is a method of using calibrated audio frequency to guide the brain out of beta hyperactivity and into a restored alpha state. Not by force, not through a complicated protocol that requires years of practice, through a 5-minute audio track listened to through headphones that uses frequency calibration alongside a 9-word spoken script drawn from a technique that is over 3,000 years old, originally from the Hindu tradition, to bypass the neural rigidity that keeps alpha suppressed and restore the drawbridge between conscious awareness and the deeper subconscious where real integration happens. The tool is called the wealth signal, and what it does, in plain terms, is this. It deactivates the stress signal, the beta hyperactivity that has been making everything feel effortful and distant and slightly out of reach, and restores the alpha baseline that is necessary for everything else to function the way it was designed to. It is 5 minutes a day, headphones, closed eyes, no other requirements. Over 19,000 people have used it. The retention rate among those who complete the first 2 weeks is above 95%, because what they experience in those first 2 weeks is not a dramatic transformation. It is something quieter and more significant. They begin to feel like themselves again, like the version of themselves that was not perpetually at 5%, like the version that can receive what arrives, hold what it receives, and act from the depth of who they actually are, rather than from the surface of what the stress has made available. But here is what I need to tell you now, and this is the pivot in everything. Restoring alpha is the first wave. It is the foundation. It opens the drawbridge. What the drawbridge opens into, the interior space that becomes accessible when the stress signal stops blocking the entrance, is a castle. And what I have not yet told you is that the castle itself has been in partial darkness for a long time. Not because of the stress signal, because of the second wave, the decline effect, the gamma dimming that began around the age of 7 and has continued quietly ever since. So here is the situation that most chosen ones find themselves in, though they would not describe it in these terms. The drawbridge is closed, which means the stress is blocking even the access point. And behind the drawbridge, the castle is dim, which means even when the access point is restored, the peak cognitive state, the deep clarity, the effortless wisdom that was natural in childhood, is not yet at full illumination. Alpha alone solves the first problem. It opens the drawbridge, but the castle still needs to be lit. That is a different tool, built by a different researcher, coming from a different tradition of study. A researcher who spent 34 years mapping the decline effect and developing a method of reversing it, whose work draws on research conducted at MIT and Princeton and several other leading research universities, and who discovered that the gamma frequency, which the ancient world associated with what we now call inspired thinking and the modern world calls flow state, can be deliberately reactivated through a method called brain entrainment, specifically through a 7-minute audio track delivered in binaural format, 2 different frequencies delivered separately to each ear, that guides the brain's frequency profile back toward the gamma range that has been dormant. That tool is called the Genius Song. Here is why this matters for you specifically. The 5 acts we described at the beginning of this message, the forgiveness, the silence when speaking was your right, the prayer for the person who hurt you, the returns, the intercession for people who did not know you were standing for them, those acts did not come from the reactive surface of your mind. They came from the depth of it. They came from the part of you that is still operating, even in a suppressed state, from alpha and gamma, from the calm knowing that is your original architecture, from the wisdom that has not fully dimmed, even under the weight of years of stress signal and decline effect. And what that tells me is this: what heaven recorded about you was not the act of a person operating at full capacity. It was the act of a person operating at partial capacity who still produced something extraordinary because the depth of their character is extraordinary. Imagine what becomes available when the drawbridge is fully open and the castle is fully lit. And I want to share one more story here. A woman in her late 30s who had been searching for what she described as genuine connection, not the polished version of it that surfaces in the right settings and disappears when the settings change, but the kind that feels like it comes from somewhere real and lands somewhere real. She had been through years of practices that touched something but did not hold it. Meditation that calmed her temporarily. Retreats that gave her a window and then closed. Periods of intention that produced short seasons of aliveness, followed by a return to the ordinary static. She began working with the second tool I described, the one that addresses the gamma frequency. After 2 weeks, she said something that I have not been able to set aside since she said it. She said, "I did not get a louder God. I got a clearer receiver." The synchronicities she had been reading about and occasionally noticing from a distance began arriving with a frequency and specificity that made her stop dismissing them as coincidence. The moments of knowing, the intuitive sense of what to do in a situation before the logical mind had finished analyzing it, became more accessible. The conversations she had began going somewhere they had not been going before. Not because the other people in those conversations had changed, because the part of her that meets another person was operating with a clarity it had not had in years. She described it as a frequency she recognized from childhood, but had not fully inhabited since. That is the gamma state, fully reactivated, no longer dormant. Now, I want to address something directly, because I have heard it enough times to know it is present in at least some of the people receiving this right now. The thought that says, I have tried enough things, I have invested enough hope in solutions that sounded like this, I am not going to be easily convinced by one more. I hear that, and I want to respond to it honestly rather than talking past it. What I am describing is not a practice that asks you to change your habits or develop a new discipline or add a substantial commitment to a life that already has too many commitments in it. It is 5 minutes and 7 minutes. Total, 12 minutes a day, through headphones, in whatever space is available to you, whether that is the first quiet stretch of the morning or the last few minutes before sleep or somewhere in the middle of the day where 12 minutes can be found. But more specifically, what makes this different from what you have tried is not the ease of it, it is the target. Everything you have tried was either targeting alpha alone, the relaxation and calm practices, or gamma alone, the focus and clarity and manifestation courses. Nothing you have tried was designed to address both frequencies in the specific sequence that the research indicates is necessary. Alpha first, because without alpha, the stress signal overrides gamma activation attempts. Then gamma, because without gamma, alpha alone produces calm without the peak cognitive state that allows the calm to become something. You were not failing at those other things because you did not try hard enough. You were applying single frequency solutions to a two-frequency problem. This addresses both, in sequence, in 12 minutes a day. And if you are wondering whether the investment is worth it given where your finances are, I want to speak to that directly as well, because I would not disrespect the reality of that consideration by pretending it is not real. The research behind these tools has been made accessible at a price that reflects a deliberate decision to reach the people who need it, rather than the people who can afford any price. Each tool on its own is $39, the price of what you might spend on dinner or a few days of small purchases that will not be remembered by the end of the month. And there is a third option for those who feel drawn to the full restoration, both waves in sequence, both tools together, the foundation and the acceleration combined, for $78 total. Because the researchers who developed them understood that the most effective path is the complete one, and they priced it accordingly. There are 3 paths, and I want to describe them honestly, because the right one depends on where you are. For those who know that the stress signal is the primary issue right now, that the constant background pressure and the blocked alpha are the most recognizable texture of what they are carrying, the first path is the foundation layer, alone, $39. Includes the 5-minute audio, the 9-word script, and 4 additional resources whose combined value reaches well into the hundreds. All of it available immediately through the link in the description and pinned comment. Over $300 of support for $39. If budget is genuinely the constraint, this is the honored entry point. It is sufficient for many people to begin the first wave of restoration and feel the difference. For those who feel that the gamma dimming is the more pressing layer, that the loss of deep clarity and the sense that the effortless knowing of earlier years has gone quiet is the more dominant experience, and who already have a strong meditation or presence practice that keeps the stress signal reasonably managed. The second path addresses that layer directly. The Genius Song alone, also $39, with 4 additional resources built around supporting the gamma reactivation process. And for those who recognize themselves in both layers, who know that the drawbridge needs opening and the castle needs illuminating, the complete path holds both tools and both resource stacks, everything developed by both researchers, available together for $78. The combined value of what is included runs to nearly $500. What you actually pay is $78. Most of the people I hear from who receive this choose the complete path, not because of any pressure from me, because once the two-wave logic is clear, the complete journey is the obvious answer. Opening the drawbridge without lighting the castle is half restoration, and half restoration leaves you in the same partial state that the years of one-frequency solutions have already produced. The castle needs to be lit. But there is a timing element here I want to be honest about. The window between receiving a truth and acting on it is not unlimited. Not because the offer expires at a specific time, because you expire at a specific time. Not in a morbid sense. In the very ordinary sense that the clarity of this moment, the understanding that has been built through everything in this message, will begin to be absorbed back into the ordinary noise of life the moment this conversation ends. The specific, clear sense of why both waves matter and what the restoration of them would produce in your life. That clarity has a half-life, and the decision to act on it, if it is going to be made, is most likely to be made in the window closest to the receiving, not out of urgency, out of respect for yourself. Out of recognition that the version of you who understands this right now, in this moment, is the version most capable of making the decision, that the version of you who will exist next week, in the middle of everything else, may not find it as easy to make. There is one more thing I need to tell you before you look for these tools, and I want to say it with care because it is important. The names The Wealth Signal and The Genius Song have been copied. There are audio files circulating on various platforms that use similar names and appear to offer similar things. They do not. The original tools contain specific frequency calibration and binaural technology that requires precision to function the way the research indicates. Audio files that have not been built according to those specifications are not neutral. They are simply audio. They cannot produce what the research describes. The only place to access both tools with the technology intact, with the full resource stacks, and with the 90-day full guarantee that means the investment carries no financial risk whatsoever, is through the link in the description and in the pinned comment of this video. Not on streaming platforms, not through a search result that pulls up something with a similar name, through those two specific locations only. The guarantee is complete. 90 days, no conditions. If after 90 days of use you do not experience what I have described, every dollar returns to you, and you keep everything you received. Every resource, the audio files, all of it, because both researchers believe that strongly in what the tool will do for the person who uses it. Here is what I want you to do. Not a big thing, something quiet, internal, that you can do right now wherever you are. Take a breath, just one. And in that interior place where the real decisions happen, the one that is more honest than your public voice and quieter than your loudest thoughts, ask yourself a simple question. Not which dollar amount, not which option is more practical. Something simpler than that. Which path is mine? Let the answer come from the place that has been forming through everything we have walked through together in this time, the place that knows about the field and the record and the zakah and the emunah, the place that is not reacting to pressure but is listening to the deeper, knowing that your gamma state, even partially dimmed, has been producing throughout this entire message. That place knows which path is yours. And if it is pulling you toward the complete journey, that pull is not accidental. The 3 paths are below this message, in the description, in the pinned comment, 2 locations. They are there. Whenever you are ready, follow only the path that your spirit is drawing you toward. And now, because there are names that belong to you and that have been waiting through this entire message for the right moment to be spoken. Everything you have heard about the field and the record and the zakar was describing someone, a specific kind of person. A person who does not simply believe in the right things, but lives them in the hidden places, at private cost, without guarantee of visible return. A person whose faithfulness is not contingent on conditions being favorable. A person whose character, built in the silence of the field, is not performance, it is foundation. That person has names, and these names are not titles to aspire toward. They are descriptions of who you have already been, recognized by the one who has been watching the whole time, and made specific by what was recorded in the Sefer, Zikaron, about you. The first name is this: you are the truth carrier. Not everyone can carry this particular thing. The truth carrier is not the person who is simply honest, who tells the truth when asked or when it is convenient. The truth carrier is the person who cannot live inside a dishonest arrangement without something in them resisting it. The person for whom the gap between what is actually true and what is being performed as true produces a kind of internal friction that does not resolve until the truth is honored in some form, not always publicly, not always loudly, but always ultimately. The truth carrier cannot sign their name to the false version and be at peace. It is not in their architecture. You know this about yourself. You have been in rooms where everyone agreed on something that was not quite right, and the agreement was easy and social, and the path of least resistance, and something in you stood slightly apart from it, even when you did not say so out loud. You have been in relationships and situations where the narrative being constructed around what was happening was incomplete or inaccurate, and holding that incompleteness cost you something it did not seem to cost the people around you. That is not an allergy to discomfort. That is the specific, God-given function of the one called to carry truth in a world that often prefers a more comfortable substitute. In action, this looks like this. You are the one who says the thing that needed to be said when everyone else had decided silence was more convenient. You are the one who does not pretend a situation is fine when it is not, even when the pretending would be easier for everyone, including you. You are the one who will lose a comfortable arrangement rather than live inside a lie, because the cost of the lie, even a quiet one, is higher for you than the cost of the loss. Heaven has recorded every moment you carried truth at personal cost, every single one. The second name is this: you are the spiritual warrior. Not the kind of warrior that the word usually conjures, not loud, not aggressive, not the person who advances by force or volume or the weight of their certainty. The spiritual warrior is the person who holds ground. The person who does not collapse under pressure when collapsing would be the most understandable response available. The person who absorbs something that would knock others over and then, in the quiet aftermath, stands back up and continues. You know this is in you, not because it has been easy, because it has been required, because the specific pressures of your specific life have arrived in ways that required you to be the one who does not break, not the one who does not feel it, the one who feels it fully and stands anyway, who carries what the season has brought and carries it without putting it down until the season releases it. The courage that is in you is not the absence of fear. The spiritual warrior is not the person without fear. They are the person who has learned, through the field and its requirements, that fear is not the final authority, that the presence within them that keeps them upright in the storm is more reliable than the storm is powerful, that showing up again after the ground has been taken is not stupidity. It is the function they were built for. In action, this looks like this. You are the one who stays in the room when others leave. The one who continues the conversation when continuing it takes something. The one who, in the morning after the night that asked too much, gets up and does what the day requires, not because you are numb to the cost, but because something in you knows that what is being built requires you to remain present for the building. Heaven recorded every single time you stood when the easiest and most understandable thing would have been to fall. Every single time. The third name is this. You are the intercessor. The intercessor stands in the gap, not for themselves, for others who do not always know they are being stood for. The intercessor is the person who carries the weight of someone else's situation into the unseen realm and holds it there, in prayer, in intention, in the invisible space where the outcomes of visible things are actually decided, on behalf of someone who may not even be aware that the space is being held. You have done this in the quiet morning prayers that named someone by name when that someone had not asked to be named there. In the conversations where you advocated for a person who was not in the room to advocate for themselves. In the moments where you absorbed the weight of someone else's pain, not because it was your job to carry it, but because your capacity for carrying, combined with the awareness that nobody else was, meant that you were the natural one to stand there. The intercessor does not do this for recognition. They do it because the nature of who they are does not allow them to stand at the edge of someone's need and do nothing. Something in them moves toward the gap and fills it before the decision is fully conscious. It is not strategy, it is character. In action, this looks like this. You are the person who prays for people who do not know you are praying. The person who speaks a kind word about someone in a room where kind words were in short supply. The person who makes a phone call to someone they sensed needed it with no specific reason and arrives to find that the call was exactly what was needed at exactly that time. The person who, in the architecture of the unseen, has been holding spaces open for people who did not know the spaces were being held. Heaven recorded every one of those prayers. Every one. The fourth name is this. You are the cycle breaker. This one is not easy to carry, but it is essential. The cycle breaker has been placed by the specific accident of their birth and their circumstances, and the people they were born among, inside a pattern that has been running longer than their lifetime. A pattern in a family, a pattern in a community, a pattern in a relational dynamic or a generational way of handling certain things that has been producing a certain result for years, sometimes for decades, sometimes for longer than anyone currently living can remember clearly. And the cycle breaker is the one in that pattern who cannot simply continue it. Not because they are morally superior to the people around them who are continuing it, because they are equipped to do something those people were not equipped to do, not through any merit of their own, but through the formation of their specific field, through the emunah that was built into them, through the cost of their specific season, and through the calling that rests on their life in a way that makes continuation of the pattern feel, for them specifically, like a betrayal of something too essential to betray. You have been breaking cycles. When you chose forgiveness, instead of continuing the pattern of withholding it that had been in your relational environment for years. When you chose honesty instead of the performance of everything being fine that the people around you had been maintaining for as long as you can remember. When you drew a boundary that nobody in your generational line had drawn before you, not because it was easy or because you had a template for how to do it, but because something in you knew that the thing that had been running through your family or your circumstances for that long was stopping with you. That is the cycle breaker. In action, this looks like this. You are the one who responds differently than everyone before you responded. who absorbs the impact of an old pattern and does not pass it forward, who, in the small and unglamorous daily choices, keeps choosing the version of things that the pattern had not yet produced and that the people after you will have access to because you produced it first. Heaven recorded every cycle you broke, every single one. If something in those 4 names just found the part of you that has been waiting to be seen, type in the comments right now, "I receive this," not as a performance, as your agreement with what was named, as the declaration before heaven that you received what was sent. I receive this right now, if that landed. And now, I want to close the loop that opened at the very beginning of this message. Do you remember the 5 signs? The forgiveness before it was asked for. The silence when speaking was your right. The prayer for the person who hurt you. The return, again and again. The intercession for someone who did not know you was standing for them. I told you then that those were not a description of your behavior. Now you know what they were. They were a description of the truth carrier who gives the truth even when it costs something. The spiritual warrior who stands without audience. The intercessor who prays for the one who caused the wound. The cycle breaker who returns instead of repeating the pattern of departure. The one who holds the space open for someone who does not know the space is being held. Those 5 signs were not a checklist. They were a portrait, and the portrait they were drawing was yours. You did not arrive at these names through spiritual performance. You did not earn them by accumulating enough acts of visible faithfulness. You arrived here through the field, through the years in the hidden place, through the lion and the bear and the unnamed battles that nobody else witnessed but heaven counted every single one of. You arrived here through emunah, not as a feeling but as a practice. The daily, unglamorous, costly practice of continuing when the continuing was not confirmed by anything visible. The field formed you, the record holds you, and the names are yours, not something to grow into, something to stand in right now, in this moment, with the full weight of what has been built into you through everything you have been through. You are the truth carrier. You are the spiritual warrior. You are the intercessor. You are the cycle breaker, and heaven has recorded it. Type in the comments the name that just landed most specifically, the one that found the exact place in you that has been waiting. Whether it is I am the truth carrier, or I am the spiritual warrior, or I am the intercessor, or I am the cycle breaker, whichever name just found its address in you, write it right now as your declaration before heaven that you received the name and are claiming it. The last part of this message is different from everything that came before it. What has come before has been the building, the field, the record, the zakah, the emunah, the names. Everything that was needed to be understood has been laid out. What comes now is not more building. What comes now is the ceremony, the closing that honors what was opened, the words that seal what was spoken, the moment where everything that has been said stops being content you received and becomes something you carry, something that does not belong to the message anymore, but belongs to you, to the chosen one who was here for it, who stayed through all of it, who received it the way real things get received, with the part of themselves that is most honest and most deep. And there is a final word that belongs in that ceremony, a word that has been present underneath everything in this message. One more thing that heaven wants to say before this particular window closes. That word is coming in the final part. Stay. Before the final words begin, there is something I want to do with you. Not a lecture, not more content to process. Something quieter than that. I want to take you somewhere that is not a physical place, because the most real places in a human life are rarely the physical ones. They are the interior ones. The ones that exist in the space between what the eyes can see and what the deepest part of the self already knows. You do not need to do anything external for this. You can stay exactly where you are, in whatever position you are in, moving or still, eyes open or closed. All I need from you is the part of you that has been present through this entire message. The part that recognized itself in the 5 signs. The part that felt something shift when Zakar was defined not as memory but as active engagement. The part that received the names and felt at least one of them land with a specificity that surprised you. That part. Just bring that part into the next few moments with me. In your mind, I want you to imagine a room, not an ordinary room. This one is older than any building you have been inside. The walls are not the walls of a house or an office or any structure built by human hands. They are the walls of something that predates all of that. Something that exists in the same realm where all the real decisions are made before they appear in the visible world. In the center of this room, there is a table, and on the table, there is a scroll. It is open, and I want you to approach it. Not quickly, take your time, because what is written on this scroll belongs to you, and the approach to something that belongs to you should be made without rushing. As you come closer, you begin to see writing, not in a language your eyes recognize, but your deepest self does not need translation for this. The deepest self reads in a language older than any human tongue. And as you stand over this scroll, you begin to understand what is written there. Your name, and beneath your name, specific acts. The ones we described, the forgiveness you gave before it was asked. The silence you kept when speaking was your right. The prayer you offered for the person who caused the wound. The returns, every single one of them. The intercession for the person who did not know you were standing for them. Each one written, each one precise, each one carrying the weight of the actual cost it required from you, not the face value of the act, but the true cost, the price paid in the interior place where no one else has access. All of it written, all of it held. And as you stand there, reading your own record, I want you to notice something about the quality of the light in this room. It is not a cold light, not the light of a courthouse or a place of judgment. It is warm, the warmth of a place where someone is genuinely glad you have arrived. The warmth of a room that has been holding these words for you, keeping them safe, waiting for the moment you were ready to receive what was written there. This is not imagination. This is the activation of something that is already real. The scroll of remembrance is not a metaphor I invented to make a point. It is the language that the prophet Malachi used to describe an actual feature of how heaven operates. The Sefer Zikaron, the record that is kept for those who fear the Lord and honor his name in the private places. The document that holds your specific emunah, your specific acts of faithfulness, your specific cost. It exists. And what you are doing right now is not pretending it is there. You are receiving the reality that it is there and that your name is in it, the way real things are received. Not through argument, but through the quiet recognition of the part of you that has always known. This was true, even in the long seasons, when the visible evidence was not confirming it. Bring what you saw in that room with you, not as a memory to be stored and retrieved later, as something you carry now, in the same way you carry the names, not in your hands, in the part of you that makes the decisions that matter, in the part that walks into the next season of your life as the person you have always been and are now beginning to fully inhabit. That part is awake right now. Keep it awake as we finish this. And now, the words begin to quiet. Not because they are finished in the way that ending means something is over, because they are finished in the way that a foundation is finished when it has been laid completely and the building can begin. What was said has been said. The field has been honored. The record has been named. The zakah has been received. The emunah has been seen and spoken over and returned to you in the form of names you can carry. What remains now is something different. What remains is the space where everything that was built in this time settles into the person who received it, where it stops being content and becomes formation, where it joins the field and the lion and the bear and the scroll, not as ideas about your life, but as the living substance of what your life actually is. I want to take a moment in this space to acknowledge what you brought here. You did not come to this message empty. You came with years. Years of faithfulness that did not always feel like faithfulness because it did not produce the visible confirmations that faithfulness is supposed to produce. Years of emunah that looked from the outside and sometimes from the inside like simply continuing to show up in the absence of adequate reason to keep showing up. Years of invisible acts that went into the Sefer Zikaron, one at a time, at a pace that was not dramatic and was not accompanied by any signal that the accumulation was building toward anything. You carried those years into this moment, and I want to name them not as the cost of getting here, but as the substance of what you are. The person who stayed faithful in the field is not a person who was marking time before their real life could begin. They are the person whose real life was happening in the field, and whose field produced something that could not have been produced anywhere else, in any faster way, by any other method. The formation was not the waiting room. The formation was the point. And the person it produced, the truth carrier, the spiritual warrior, the intercessor, the cycle breaker, the one whose name is in the scroll, and whose zakah has been spoken, and whose emunah has been seen by the Father, who looks at the heart, while human eyes look at everything else, that person is fully formed now. That person is you, and what is coming for you, the season that follows this one, the open field that comes after the formation is complete, the place where what was built in the hidden years begins to be expressed in the visible ones, that destiny has been in motion since before this morning, arranged in the unseen places by the same God who arranged the oil on David's head, and it is moving in your direction with the same inevitability and the same precision. The destiny that has been walking toward you through every season you have been faithful in. The one that has been embracing you in the hidden years, even when you could not feel the embrace. What the ancient understanding calls destiny's embrace, the patient, irresistible movement of divine purpose toward the person it was designed for. That is not abstract. That is the architecture of what you are walking into. And it has been waiting for the formation to be complete. Now, I want to take you through the release, because carrying these truths means setting other things down. And setting them down is not something you do once in a dramatic moment and then it is finished. It is a practice, a return, an act of emunah in itself, the decision, made again and again in the ordinary hours of ordinary days, to let go of the measurement system that has been applying the wrong standard, and to take up instead the measurement of heaven, which does not require visible confirmation to qualify as real. What I am about to name, I want you to hear as a release, not an accusation. Everything being released here has served a purpose. It has kept you honest. It has kept you grounded. It has prevented you from floating into a kind of spirituality that is untethered from the real cost of real faithfulness. So, none of what follows is shame. All of it is graduation. The release of things that were appropriate for the season you have been in and are no longer needed in the season you are entering. Release the need for the people in your life to confirm the weight of what you have been carrying. They could not always see it, not because they were careless, but because what was being built in the hidden place cannot be fully seen from outside the hidden place. The record was not kept by them. It was kept in the Sefer Zikaron, And the Sefer Zikaron does not require their annotation to be complete. The record is complete without their witness. Release it. Release the timeline you built for when the visible response was supposed to arrive. The timeline was not wrong to have. You built it from everything you knew about how things work, from the reasonable assumption that faithfulness produces visible confirmation within a window that a human life can observe and take encouragement from. That timeline was honest. It was hopeful. And it has been one of the main sources of the discouragement that has accompanied the waiting. The timeline was not the problem. The measurement system was the problem. And the Zakar does not move on the timeline of human expectation. It moves on the timeline of divine preparation, which is longer and more reliable, and produces something at the end of it that no accelerated timeline could have produced. Release the timeline. Release the guilt that came from choosing emunah over approval. The people whose expectations you did not meet in the seasons where you were protecting what God was building in you, you genuinely love them. The guilt is the texture of that love passing through the filter of a decision they did not fully understand. But the decision was right. Not because you were right and they were wrong, because the formation required what the formation required. And the person who is standing in these four names today could only have become that person by walking the specific path that cost you those specific relationships, those specific amounts. The guilt has done its work. It has confirmed that you love. It is not needed for the next season. Release it. Release the question of whether it was seen, not because the question was wrong, because it has already been answered. The Zakar has occurred. The record is active. The response is in motion. The question that has been sitting in the background of your faithfulness for this entire season, the slow, steady, quietly insistent, did God even notice, has received its answer in this message. And the answer is not something you need to keep asking now. You can set it down. Heaven noticed. Heaven did not just notice. Heaven was moved. Heaven is proud. Release it, all of it. And now stand in what remains. What remains when the need for witness is released, and the timeline is released, and the guilt is released, and the question is released, is not emptiness. What remains is the person, the actual person, without the weight of the carrying, without the slow erosion of the long season, without confirmation, without the measurement system that was applied to the wrong reality. What remains is the truth carrier with both hands free, the spiritual warrior standing upright without the burden of the question, the intercessor whose intercession can now flow without the undercurrent of wondering if it reaches anywhere, the cycle breaker who can move forward into the next season without dragging the last one behind them. That is who you are. And this is what heaven has been moving toward since the first moment you chose emunah over the easier path. There is a truth I want to declare over you now, not something I invented, not something I am offering as encouragement, in the general sense. Something specific, drawn from everything this message has built, offered to the one who has been here through all of it, as the closing word from the record that was made about you. You were faithful when no one was watching, and in every ordinary hour of that faithfulness, something was being written that will outlast the season that produced it, and heaven has recorded it. You chose emunah when resentment would have been completely justified, when the accounting by any human standard would have entitled you to let go, and you gave what was not required of you and kept giving it past the point where most people would have stopped, and heaven has recorded it. You carried what was not always yours to carry, and you did not drop it when the carrying became too much for a person of your particular sensitivities and depth to carry lightly, and you found a way to continue anyway, because that is what is in you, and heaven has recorded it. You are the truth carrier who held the truth even when the truth was costly. You are the spiritual warrior who stood when standing required everything. You are the intercessor who prayed for the one who wounded you and held the space open for the one who did not know the space was being held. You are the cycle breaker who absorbed the old pattern and chose not to pass it forward so that what comes after you enters a different inheritance than what came before you. You are all of this, and heaven has recorded it. I hear the Father speaking over you in this moment, and I want to receive this carefully for you, because the one who is about to speak is not a voice I will put words in lightly, and these are not words I offer as my own. I hear him saying this. I was in the field with you, not watching from a distance, close. In the actual hours, in the cold mornings and the long nights, and the days that asked more than they gave back, I was present in a way that did not announce itself, but was never absent. I heard every prayer you prayed when you were not sure the prayer was reaching anywhere. I was in the room for every decision you made when the easier path was available and you chose the harder one anyway. I counted the cost accurately, not approximately, accurately. Every fraction of what it took from you was measured by the one who knows exactly what you are made of and exactly what each act required. And here is what I want you to know from that accounting. What you gave was not small. What you gave was not common. The person who does what you did, in the conditions you did it in, for the duration you sustained it, without the visible confirmation that would have made it easier to sustain, is a rare person. And I am not describing rare in a way that separates you from those around you. I am describing rare in the way that the field produces rare things, specific, formed, unrepeatable by any other method. I did not bring you through the field to leave you in it. The field was the preparation, not the destination. And what the field produced in you is the exact shape of what comes next. You are not on the way to being ready. You are ready. And the thing I need you to hear most clearly, above everything else in this moment, is this. I am not quietly satisfied by what I saw in your field. I am proud. The shockingly, unmistakably, specifically proud kind. The kind that a father feels when a child has carried something real and has not dropped it and has not required anyone else to acknowledge the weight before deciding the weight was worth carrying. That kind of proud. The record was made this morning, and the response has already begun. Go forward as one who knows this. Go as one who is known. In the ancient understanding, the moment of commissioning was not always loud. Sometimes it was oil on the head, and then back to the field, with no crowd and no celebration, and no dramatic music rising in the background. Just the reality of what had been given, settling into the person who received it, becoming something they carried into the next part of their life. That is what this moment is. Not the end of a message, the beginning of what comes next. You are not leaving here the same as you arrived. The names have been spoken over you. The record has been acknowledged. The zakah has been received. The emunah, that has been the quiet practice of your faithfulness for this entire season, has been seen by the Father, who looks at the heart, and it has moved him to something that will not remain hidden. What is built in the hidden place is released in the open one. Your open season is ahead. And there are thousands of others who are in this same transition, chosen ones in their own fields, whose formation has been running in parallel with yours, who have been faithful in the same invisible ways and are receiving the same record activation in the same season. You are not alone in this. There has never been a moment, not 1 hour of your field, where you have been the only one in it. The community of those who carry these names and have paid these costs is larger than your immediate surroundings have allowed you to see. And As what was hidden begins to come into the light for you, you will begin to find them. Recognize them by their emunah, by the specific texture of a person who has been formed in the field, by the way they carry truth and hold ground and stand for others and break what needed to be broken. You will know each other, and the recognition will be mutual. Go in the authority of what is written. Go as one who is known. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season, and the next one has already begun. One more thing. Before this fully closes, I want to say something I should have said before the first word of this message was spoken. Thank you for staying. Not for the message, for yourself, for the part of you that was willing to remain present through the parts that were hard to receive, and the parts that asked something of you, and the parts where the weight of what was being named was heavier than expected. That willingness to stay in the presence of truth, even when the truth has edges, is itself an act of emunah. It is itself a part of the record. The fact that you are here at the end is not nothing. It is exactly what the field produces. And I want you to carry something specific into the next 24 hours, not a practice or a protocol. 1 sentence. When the quiet voice returns, as it will, and asks, in its flat and practiced way, whether any of this was real, I want you to have a specific response ready. Not an argument, not a defense, a declaration. The record is active, the response is in motion, and I know who I am. That is all it needs. 3 sentences. The measurement system will look for evidence and find the wrong channel, as it always has. The declaration does not argue with the measurement system. It simply operates from a different one. Try it now, quietly, in the interior place, not for me, as your final act of emunah before this window closes. The record is active, the response is in motion, and I know who I am. If something in this entire message, any part of it from the beginning to now, found the place in you it was sent to, type in the comments these 4 words. Heaven has my name, not as a sentiment. As your declaration before the courts of heaven that you received what was written there and you are claiming it. Heaven has my name, right now, if this landed where it was meant to. And if this message gave you something real, if the zakah felt true, and the emunah felt recognized, and the names felt accurate, let your like be your amen. Press it, not for the performance of agreement, but as your signal to heaven and to the algorithm of this world that this kind of truth should travel further, that there are others in fields who need to hear their names spoken over them. Let your like be the prayer that sends it to them. And stay close, because what comes next in this space has been prepared for where you are going, not where you have been. The messages being built for the season ahead of you are not more of what you received here. They are what comes after formation is complete. They are the roadmap for the open field, and they are being prepared for the one who stayed through this. Subscribe, and let the next word find you when it is ready to arrive. For those who felt the call of the 2-wave restoration, who felt the pull toward what the wealth signal and the genius song were built to do in the architecture of their mind and their receiving capacity, the 3 paths remain open. They are in the description. They are in the pinned comment. 2 locations, the foundation path, the acceleration path, and the complete journey. Follow only the one your spirit is drawing you toward. The doors are open whenever you are ready. And if someone came to mind during this message, I want to speak to you about them directly. You know who it is. Maybe the name arrived early, in the section about the 5 signs. Maybe it arrived when the David story was being told, and you thought, this person needs to hear about the field. Maybe it arrived in the obstacle section, when the quiet erosion was being described, and you recognized it as the exact texture of what someone specific in your life has been carrying for longer than they have been able to name. That person did not come to mind by accident. The one who sends messages does not waste the movements of the heart. When someone arrives in your awareness during a message like this, it is because they are in a field, and the field has been long, and the question of whether God even noticed has been sitting with them for a while, and you have been designated as the one who can put this in their hands. Your act of sending it is itself intercession. The intercessor sends the word to the one who needs to receive it, without requiring them to ask first, without knowing whether they will thank you for it, without any guarantee, except the knowing that the sending was right. Send it to them today, not later, today, before the window closes and the ordinary noise of life decides it can wait. Your obedience in this small thing may be the thing that breaks something open in the life of someone who has been faithful in the dark for too long. Send it. The God who recorded your emunah is the same God who has been watching theirs, and they deserve to know what was written. May you go from this moment carrying everything that was given here and nothing that was released here. May the names you received settle into the deepest part of you and find a residence there that does not require constant maintenance. That simply is the way real things simply are. May the zakah that was spoken over you continue its movement in the unseen places and arrive in the visible ones at the precise moment the divine timing has been arranging toward. May the field that formed you become, in retrospect, the most significant season of your life, not because of what it cost you, but because of who it produced. May the truth carrier speak when the truth needs to be carried. May the spiritual warrior stand when the standing is required. May the intercessor pray when the gap needs to be filled. May the cycle breaker break what still needs to be broken so that what comes after carries a different inheritance. And may you know, not as a nice thought but as a settled, operational, daily reality, that the Father who watched you in the field was not a neutral observer. He was a proud one. He still is. Go. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season. The next one has already begun, and heaven knows your name.